Are you ready? What? I said, are you ready? Yeah! Can't steal it! Woo! Wheel and deal it! The cream of the crop! Nobody does it better. I got 141 and 2/3 chance of winning. But brother, I am bad and they know I'm bad.
I'm the man of the hour, the man with the power. You sweet to be sour.
It's showtime, folks!
Welcome to the Grill Out. From the heart of Shillian, West Virginia, here's your host, Hollywood Jeff Petty.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Grill Out, episode 30. I am your host, Hollywood Jeff Petty. And normally this would be the part in the program where I would introduce Jason and Josh, but they're not here. We're doing things a little differently this time. They will be here later on in the program for the middle segment, which will be Mount Rushmore. And if you don't know what Mount Rushmore is outside of the wrestling group with Kevin Steen, Adam Cole, and the Bucks, Mount Rushmore is where we pick a category at random, okay? And then we give our top 4 in said category. Pretty much a Mount Rushmore for this category. And this time we are doing announcers, so make sure you stay tuned for that because some interesting things were said during this Mount Rushmore. So, just so we can jump into it, and speaking of announcers, Jim Ross, on his Grill and JR podcast, has said that it's more than likely this year will be his last year announcing. He said, quote, "I think so. It's realistic to think that way. You know, I'm 72 years old. I feel good. I'm getting healthier every day, which is great. But I can think realistically this could be my last year. And more than likely will. That's to be determined. That's between me, my health, and Tony Khan seeing how much to utilize me. Right now it's a good plan because I'm essentially working, as I understand it, pay-per-views only. So that's where you'll find me once a month working these pay-per-views as the plan goes as we speak. We all know that in pro wrestling things change on a fly and things could be different, but I don't think so on this occasion." End quote. I mean, Jim Ross, to me, greatest announcer of all time. Spoiler alert, he is on my Mount Rushmore. But yeah, it's going to be sad to see the final time he takes the headset off. But if anybody has earned their retirement, it's JR. I read quite some time ago that he wanted to announce in 5 different decades, and he wanted to announce for at least 50 years in the wrestling business. I think he has accomplished that. But yeah, I don't see JR going much further. I mean, he's pretty much at the end of the road for his career. I'm glad that his health is getting better. I know he had that cancer scare, and you know that, along with the unfortunate passing of his wife some years ago. I think that I think JR does not. If JR wants to step away, JR should step away. He's, like I said, to me, he's the greatest announcer of all time. He's the greatest commentator of all time. He's the voice of professional wrestling. But if somebody does want to step back, it's got to be JR. I mean, come on. JR is, he's 72 years old. I mean, let the man rest is what I'm saying. And he is a WWE Hall of Famer, okay? And speaking of the Hall of Fame, we have 2 more inductees going into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2024. I'll go ahead and give the first one. This man needs no introduction. Muhammad Ali will be in the Hall of Fame. And I know you're sitting there wondering, why is Muhammad Ali going into the WWE Hall of Fame? Well, kids, get your notepads out. I'm about to tell you. Muhammad Ali was... Number one, he was very instrumental in the first WrestleMania. I mean, we all sort of know the story. Vince put a lot of he put a lot of resources, a lot of money. He gambled on the first WrestleMania. I mean, it pretty much would have ruined him if it did not turn out the way it did. And in order to have it turn out the way he needed it to, he needed a connection to the mainstream of American culture, American pop culture and all that. And one person who could get them there is Muhammad Ali. Yes, he was, I think, a special guest referee. And, you also had Cyndi Lauper and the Rock and Wrestling Connection and all of that. That played into it, but Muhammad Ali was instrumental because he wouldn't be associated with something if he didn't, if it wasn't legit. Even though wrestling, it's a work. Okay, everybody, it's a work. But still, Muhammad Ali was there. Also, I know that all of us are very familiar with Muhammad Ali's quote-unquote promo style. I'm float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, all of that. Getting in, psyching out his opponents and getting in their head. That actually came from professional wrestling. So, real quick, old school wrestling heel Gorgeous George. Okay, I don't want to say the first wrestling heel, but one of the professional wrestlers to take the heel to the next level. He told a very young Muhammad Ali to keep running his mouth. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he told Muhammad Ali, he said, a lot of people would pay a lot of money to watch somebody shut your mouth. And what did Muhammad Ali do? He did not stop running his mouth. So people bought the tickets. They wanted to see the show. They wanted to see Muhammad Ali get knocked out. A couple times he did, but, for the most part, he didn't. He is the GOAT for a reason. But he is not the only announced inductee for the WWE Hall of Fame. Thunderbolt Patterson has also been announced. And I found this little excerpt from WrestlingInc.com, and I just wanted to read it to put into perspective why Thunderbolt Patterson is going into the WWE Hall of Fame. Quote, he was a 30-year veteran. Thunderbolt Patterson achieved success during the territory days, including becoming world champion in Memphis, Florida, and Kentucky, television champion in Georgia, and a tag championship in Georgia, California, and Mid-Atlantic. But perhaps Patterson's biggest contribution to wrestling is what he did outside of the ring, as he fought against racial discrimination during the 70s and even campaigned to form a wrestlers' union, which Patterson later claimed led to him being blackballed for several years. The wrestling union thing is a big topic, and it has been sort of a bigger topic within wrestling in the past few years. It has died down in the past couple of years. It has since died down, but I mean, there's certain wrestlers have been trying to get a union going for years. I mean, ask Jesse Ventura. He tried, and Hulk Hogan ratted him out, and that's how he lost his job at the WWF allegedly and all of that. But Thunderbolt Patterson, I just thought it was very. It's very insightful. It's a very important thing to me that why he is going into the Hall of Fame. I didn't know exactly, and then I read this excerpt and did a little bit of research myself. And yeah, rightfully so. He should be in the Hall of Fame. No questions asked. Apparently, there is going to be one more Hall of Fame inductee announced. Allegedly, the rumor is that it's going to be The Rock's grandmother. Don't know how that's going to play into anything, but we'll see. She was the wife of Peter Maivia and all of that. I think her name is Leah Maivia. So, she is the matriarch of pretty much the greatest wrestling dynasty in the history of professional wrestling, the Anawahis. So that's the rumor. We'll see next week if that happens. But until then, right now it's just that it's Muhammad Ali, Thunderbolt Patterson, the U.S. Express, among others. I can Google real quick. I should have had it in front of me, but sometimes I don't have things where I need them. Class of 2024, Thunderbolt Patterson, yeah. Bull Nakano, I know she is going in. Paul Heyman, of course. So we got Paul Heyman, Bull Nakano, the U.S. Express, Muhammad Ali, and Thunderbolt Patterson. So far, that is who is the class of 2024 going into the WWE Hall of Fame. Like I said, allegedly there's going to be one more inductee announced, and we will see about that next week. So, and speaking of Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers actually, allegedly The Rock he's been rubbing people the wrong way. So if you've been following The Rock on social media and whatnot, he has been, he's been cutting these long promos. I'll be honest, I'm not going to sit there and listen to a 20-minute promo about whatever. I don't care who's talking, okay? You get in, get out, give me a 5-minute promo. You don't need to have 20 plus minutes to cut a promo. But he's been cutting these promos on Cody and his mom and all of this, and just trying to play into the WrestleMania Hall of Fame, the WrestleMania main event, excuse me. And I can't play them on the air because we would be subject to plenty of FCC violations. So yeah, they've been he's been cursing a lot in them. There's been a lot of obscenities said in these promos. Like I said, I'm not going to quote any of them. I'm not going to play any of them because we would be subject to FCC violations at that point. This is being reported by SEScoops.com. Quote, a recent memo emphasized the need for talent to follow PG guidelines on TV and social media. Despite this, The Rock's use of profanity, like in a recent promo, has raised questions among talent about double standards. They wonder why he's allowed to curse while others aren't. The thinking is that even if he is the big movie star, shouldn't everyone play by the same rules so he can curse and use that to get over, but everyone else is handcuffed, end quote? I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all with that. I know The Rock is on the board of directors. I know he is The Rock. He's Dwayne Johnson. He's the highest paid actor in Hollywood, and he's one of, if not the most recognizable action star in the world. I get that. I get the star power. I'm not stupid. I understand that. But you are, by allowing him this leeway, you are in a way opening up a can of worms. You are you're barking up a tree that you don't want to bark up. Who's to say that maybe a WWE wrestler isn't like, I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission, and goes out there and says something, or posts or tweets something, or cuts a promo on their phone, while filming themselves on their phone, and they post it and it's got all this profanity in it, and they're like, yeah, go ahead, find me. And then they point out how well you're letting The Rock get away with it. Why am I handcuffed? Why am I handcuffed? Why am I handcuffed at all with this? It's a can of worms that the WWE doesn't want to deal with because, of course, TKO owns them now. They're a publicly traded company. I know people get tired of corporate America and all of this. I completely understand, but that's the world we live in. You can't just go out there and be dropping F-bombs and S-bombs and all this stuff and expecting no repercussions. Just like some people, they want to say, I have freedom of speech. I can say whatever I want. Well, you can. But that doesn't keep you from freedom of repercussions. You still have consequences for your actions. So, yeah, what is to say that WWE talent is not sitting there thinking, well, I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission. Like I said, I don't blame them. Creatively, you are handcuffing me. That's the word I was looking for there a couple minutes ago. Well, 45 seconds ago. But, yeah, you're handcuffing me creatively. You're putting me in this box, and yes, you don't need to be sitting there, saying all this profane stuff to get people's attention. But it worked for Stone Cold. But that was the Attitude Era. That was the late 90s into the early 2000s. That era is long gone. Trust me, I grew up in the Attitude Era. I did. I was a wee lad when it was going on. But it doesn't need to be, we don't need to be trying to go back to it so much. So, yeah, I get The Rock's heel turn and his heel character. The Rock is, one of the best promos in the history of professional wrestling. The creativity of insults that this man can just churn out like a factory is jaw-dropping. It's mind-blowing to me. But, yeah, I don't see this. I don't see this ending rather well. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not, I don't got a crystal ball in front of me. I don't know if who's going to do it or how they're going to do it or whatnot. But I just think that this is a can of worms for WWE that's going to cause them to rethink some things. So that's my opinion on it. I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah, and just moving on, this past week on AEW Dynamite, they had Big Business, which was from Boston at I think it was the TD Gardens, and Mercedes Moné did make her debut in AEW. This is coming from SCScoops.com. Quote, Moné recently debuted for AEW at the Big Business edition of Dynamite in front of her hometown crowd in Boston. She was warmly welcomed, even expressed that she felt so cool like Steve Austin. I get that. No, I don't get that, but the little nod to Stone Cold. I'm a Stone Cold fanboy. Leave me alone. Furthermore, after Dynamite went off the air, Moné came out to the ring following a dark match between Willow Nightingale and Riho. Seeing Julia Hart and Sky Blue attacking Nightingale after the match, Moné, donning her new ring gear, rushed to her aid. She swiftly took out Blue and delivered her signature move, the Moné Maker, to Hart. End quote. So, AEW has been firing off on all cylinders pretty much since Revolution, since the Sting retirement match. They've had a lot of momentum coming out of that. The signing of Kazuchika Okada. Will Ospreay coming over. You have Mercedes Moné. But you look at some of the numbers, they're not translating very well. And I'm not going to turn this program into, we're going to talk about ratings and we're going to talk about these numbers and these numbers. People are sitting there like, oh, well, you did the same thing with Mercedes Moné that you did with CM Punk with his debut. And for those of you that don't know, long story short, CM Punk, he was out of professional wrestling for several years. Several years. He hated professional wrestling. He left WWE on bad terms, went scorched earth on everything. He had a couple fights in the UFC, did some commentary for, I think it was Cage Fighting Championship, whatever, among other things. There's a couple times he showed up at indie shows. Like one time he actually had, I think, a luchador mask on so nobody would recognize him. But eventually he started to get the itch. Well, it was an open secret that CM Punk was returning. Okay, we all kind of knew it. That it was the second episode of AEW Rampage. They called it The Last Dance, which is a nod to the documentary of the Chicago Bulls, the Michael Jordan, the championship-winning Bulls. And, of course, Chicago, CM Punk. CM Punk is from Chicago. And it was honestly, like, crowd reactions for me, it's probably top 10. I've watched a lot of professional wrestling in my day. Top 10. Easy. But the difference between that, so I tell you that with CM Punk, to tell you that Mercedes Moné was sort of the same thing. They did it in a very similar fashion. They did it in her hometown of Boston. They had a special edition of AEW. It wasn't Rampage, it was Dynamite, but still it was a special edition of AEW Dynamite called Big Business, which is a nod to her boss character in WWE, because she can't call herself the boss. I think she's calling herself the CEO right now, but still. And it was this open secret. We all kind of knew that Mercedes Moné was going to debut. The big difference is Mercedes had already wrestled in New Japan. She didn't go on a scorched earth campaign with professional wrestling. She wasn't, she didn't stay away from it for several years, saying that she would never return. It wasn't going to work out the same way. You weren't going to see a ratings increase. You weren't going to see these the views on your YouTube channel go up for her debut. I'm glad she's there. I really want to see the women in AEW get their flowers. I want to see them start kicking heads in. Okay, I can't wait to see Jamie Hayter come back because I think she's phenomenal. Now you got Mercedes Moné there, you got Toni Storm, Mariah May, Britt Baker. I mean, they got a stacked women's division. So let's see what they can do. But it was, to the people out there that are like, well, it wasn't like CM Punk. It was not going to work that way. And if you're listening to this and you are maybe one of the people that put that together, I don't think it was going to work out that way because of just CM Punk and Mercedes Moné they're vastly different. They are. They're very different from one another. Moné is, she's out there, like I said, still wrestling. CM Punk wasn't there for several years. That's the big difference between the two of them. The story wasn't the same. You can book it the same. You can do the debut the same, which is basically what you did, but it wasn't going to have the same result. That's my thoughts on it. That's my opinion on it. You can email us, therealhot95@gmail.com, and let us know what you think, or like the Facebook page. Go ahead and send us a message. Let us know what you think of Mercedes Moné's debut in AEW. So, and let's go ahead and let's switch gears real quick. We got a few more stories to hit before we close out this first segment. Locally here, All Star Wrestling, ASW, they're based out of Boone County, Madison, Boone County to be specific. They announced a new show. ASW on, I think it's Sunday, April 21st, Sunday main event from Logan, West Virginia. They do have, I think it's March 30th, they have their 18th anniversary show. It will be from the Madison Civic Center. But they've already announced April 21st, Sunday, it will be Sunday main event from Logan, West Virginia. And they've already announced the main event. It will be a rematch between Casey King and All Ego Ethan Page. And I saw this and immediately I was like, Casey King and Ethan Page do look rather similar. They kind of do. And also, I'm so glad Casey King is back. I have always enjoyed watching him in the ring. I think he's great. But yeah, so it's a rematch. My hit came out there my cabin creek came out there for a second. It is a rematch between Casey King and Ethan Page. Ethan Page did win the previous bout between the two at the Nathan Rumble on November 5th, 2022. So go ahead and mark your calendar. ASW, they always put on good shows. I mean, if you listen to the interview that I did last week with Adam Harris, he is their ring announcer. He, cannot sing their praises enough. And other people that I've talked to within the business or have been in the business before that have worked with ASW, there's nothing but good things that is always said about them, about Gary Dameron, just amazing people. Moving on, last couple things we got to get to. Forbidden Door 2024 is being reported by Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer newsletter that Forbidden Door will feature wrestlers from CMLL and Stardom in 2024. No official date has been announced for the event, but New York City's Arthur Ashe Stadium is reportedly in line to hold the event at some point in June. So we're looking at June, which is typical for Forbidden Door, and it looks like they will be going to Arthur Ashe Stadium. I believe we talked about this before on the program, but they're, that's what it looks like. So it looks like this year for Forbidden Door, it's not just going to be AEW and New Japan. You're also going to have CMLL and Stardom there as well. Both awesome promotions, and really that's, in a way, that's four different styles of wrestling. You have AEW, which is, they have a lot of different styles within them, and I like the nods that they do to old school wrestling. But they are they're an American company. They have an American style, sort of, to their wrestling. Of course, you got New Japan, which is the Puroresu, which is, Japanese for pro wrestling. They have that style of professional wrestling. Then CMLL, which is the Lucha Libre stuff. I mean, if you've never sat down and watched the Lucha Libre, do yourself a favor. And then Stardom is Joshi Wrestling, which is, it's Japanese wrestling. It's Puroresu, but it's female. It's all females. Joshi Wrestling is awesome. And there's so much so that there's a reason why Bull Nakano is getting inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. So I'm just saying that. And just to close it all out, since we are talking about women's wrestling, This one kind of came out of left field. Not kind of, it did come out of left field. Shayna Baszler, okay, she will be working at GCW the week of WrestleMania, which is crazy to think of, that a WWE contracted talent will be going to GCW. It will be Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 10. This is coming from 411mania.com. Quote, WWE superstar Shayna Baszler is being allowed to work the GCW Bloodsport 10 event during WrestleMania weekend in Philadelphia. According to a report by Dave Meltzer with F4WOnline.com, WWE Chief Creative Officer Paul Triple H Levesque reportedly made the decision to allow Baszler to work the event, along with other WWE talent working in the event dates. This GCW event will take place April 4th. It will be the week of WrestleMania, not so much the weekend of WrestleMania. And from the sounds of this report, along with other WWE talent working indie event dates, it looks like Triple H is going to open the floodgates and allow WWE talent to come in and work other indie events. So maybe Shayna Baszler will not be the last one. We will wait and see. And once we find out more, we will definitely let everybody know. But yeah, she will be, she's booked for GCW Bloodsport 10 the week of WrestleMania in Philadelphia. And that's going to do it for this segment of the Grill Out, ladies and gentlemen. Up next, we have the Mount Rushmore segment with Jason Lykens and Josh Cole. So stay tuned.
It's time for more of the Grill Out. Here's Hollywood Jeff Petty.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Grill Out. I am your host, Hollywood Jeff Petty, Trailer Park Jeff Petty, or whatever you want to call me. And I am joined by none other than the reflection of perfection, Jason Lykens. Jason, we do like him, Lykens.
Yep.
And also Josh Cole, baby. And technically the current reigning and defending Grill Out World Heavyweight Predictions Champion.
Just world champion.
Just world champion?
There's no weight divisions here.
Okay, no weight divisions. It's just it's an open weight division.
Yeah.
So this is a little game that we play from time to time on the program, and it's called Mount Rushmore. And basically, what it is I have in front.
Climb Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, not Mount Everest though.
Yeah.
But so I have in front of me right now a list of just different things within professional wrestling. We went ahead and rolled right off the air to go ahead and have our sort of topic ready. And out of the ones that, were chose, we're going to do it on commentator. So we're just going to go one by one with the three of us, everybody giving their own Mount Rushmore one at a time until we hit 4, and then, then the game's over. So, and if you have a Mount Rushmore of commentators, you can email us, thegrillout95@gmail.com, or message the Facebook page. So, yeah. Anywho, I will go first, and it's a pretty obvious pick if you know me personally. And my first pick, and I fully believe that this man is the greatest commentator of all time as far as professional wrestling goes. He's part of the reason why I even got into this profession. And that would be the one and only Jim Ross. JR is the voice of he is the voice of professional wrestling. He has commentated for now, 50 years, I think?
Yeah.
I think he did just recently extend his contract with AEW, so yeah, he's trying to hit that 50-year mark. Yeah. I have to give it to Jim Ross. Just the one and only the man. So yeah. Jason?
Oh, we usually go Josh.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go to my
Sure.
right. Josh.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that. I will say in these later years, he hasn't been quite as great as he once was.
It comes with age.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when you think old school, like 90s attitude, well, old school. '90s Attitude Era, it's Jim Ross. Even Ruthless Aggression Era too. Him and Jerry Lawler, which we'll get into in a bit. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, he is the voice of wrestling, basically, at least of that time.
Absolutely. I mean, he just. There is a reason why, like I said, there is a reason why I wanted to get into this profession, and Jim Ross played a big role in it.
Gonna be a slobber knocker. He always had those great liners too.
Yes, he did have. We actually did in the opening part of this show. We changed it because of Sting. We went in and replaced Jim Ross's slobber knocker with Sting's Showtime. But yeah, Jim Ross hands down. So, Jason,
Real quick, I actually got to briefly meet him.
Yes, you did.
I got you guys some autographs.
You did.
Yeah.
You did.
Yep. I have mine actually framed in my house with the tickets to the first AEW show here in Charleston. So it was me and my brother's tickets. All three of them are in there.
Nice.
And also, he tweeted at me one time.
Yeah.
Yep. And oddly enough, it was like during a time when like people were giving him a lot of stuff about, forgetting stuff and not researching very much. And one of the tips he gave me was make sure you research.
Okay.
So I caught him in a good mood, I guess. But anyway, Jason.
So for as much as I agree with Jim Ross, I try to have my picks be different than your all's. So for the sake of it being different, and Jim Ross isn't my top pick anyways.
Fair.
Jim Ross would be like my second because I grew up loving WCW. So my top pick is Tony Schiavone.
That's a solid
It's
one.
who I grew up listening to. I always loved hearing Schiavone on the call, and I still do.
Yeah, I mean, Schiavone. Yeah, Schiavone is actually he is a solid choice. And he is a rather solid choice. And actually, I'll just add on to that because Tony Schiavone is actually part of mine as well. You cannot go wrong with him. I don't like when WCW was as hot as they were, like in the 90s and all that. I don't like WCW and Tony Schiavone kind of goes hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Like you can't have those big moments in WCW without Tony Schiavone on the call. I mean, he's basically the equivalent of Jim Ross in WWE, WWF at the time. And also, yeah, Schiavone is he's also very smooth on the mic. Mm-hmm. Anytime you put him out there, and he's always just smooth like butter. And apparently, he can also make a pretty mean coffee. Because I guess he worked at Starbucks briefly. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Josh,
I have to completely agree. One of my next choices was going to be Tony Schiavone. Like you said, he was my ring announcer during childhood because I watched WCW instead of WWF. And just hearing his voice again now in All Elite Wrestling has been great. And he's also a good ring announcer, too, like actual in-ring announcer. And the old "It's Sting" thing, although I kind of think it's a little bit annoying. But
yeah, I did think it was very classy when Sting asked him to come up and say it. Yeah. And he was like, I'll do it, but I'm not getting in the ring and taking the moment away from him. So the classy move by Mr. Schiavone.
But yeah, for me, like the top two voices in wrestling are Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and they're both on AEW now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you got I got no rebuttal on that one. That's why I said Schiavone is the equivalent to Jim Ross, except with WCW. So
yeah,
Jason.
So my second one, for the sake of being different, is a person whom worked well with anyone he was put together with. He was just extraordinarily quick on the mic with little quips and comebacks, and I have to give it to Bobby Heenan.
I feel so terrible that I didn't even think of Bobby. I should have my pro wrestling card revoked on that one. That is a very, very solid pick. I mean, Heenan, especially when Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon were together. Like they had a chemistry that's very rare amongst people. Like I would be in today's age, I would definitely listen to a podcast with Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon on it.
My biggest issue with Bobby Heenan on commentary, though, was when Hogan came out as the third member of the NWO, and Hogan's making his way out there, and Heenan saying, yeah, but whose side is he on? And I get it, because for their entire career together, Heenan was always the anti-Hogan person. So when you look at it from the historical story, it makes sense that Heenan is questioning Hogan. But I feel it would have made for a better story had Heenan, been very behind Hogan at this point. And then once Hogan turned, that's when Heenan's like, I knew it. I've said it all along. But that's just me.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't watched as much WCW as I've watched other promotions. He telegraphed it. There was nothing indicating that Hogan was going to turn leading up to that. Was there?
No.
Like there was like nothing on the programming.
No.
So yeah, that does that. I mean that right there basically telegraphed it.
It's originally going to be Sting.
Yeah.
No, originally it was Hogan.
Was it?
Sting was the backup if Hogan wouldn't do it.
Oh, okay. In case Hogan pulled his that ain't for me, brother.
Yeah, pulled his brother card.
Yeah, pulled his creative freedom, I guess. Is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So my next pick is a bit of an old school one. I have learned going back and watching old school wrestling, like Florida Territory wrestling. I have learned that this man is sort of the catalyst. Like he set the bar years ago, and that's Gordon Soley.
Yeah, it used to be. I mean, if you had someone
Sorry
do
about that.
an impression of a wrestling commentator, I mean, now they do JR. Yeah. Prior to JR, they would do Gordon Soley. Yeah,
I mean, Gordon Soley, to put it just because my mind goes back and forth between like NASCAR and wrestling. In NASCAR terms, like the commentator who took the sport, like made that the commentator role like even more important to the sport, just like Gordon Soley did with professional wrestling, is Ken Squire. I mean, Ken Squire is the reason why the Daytona 500 was put on television, flag to flag coverage and all that. And Gordon Soley, if you ask like JR or any of them, that's who their inspiration comes from, is Gordon Soley. So just for sheer impact into the industry, and it's still sort of felt to this day, I have to go with Soley. So, Josh.
This is someone who I think has been largely underappreciated until recently, Michael Cole.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I feel like, all those years having to be talked to by Vince through his headset, he's kind of not been as good as he could have been. But recently, I think he's been doing very well and shown what he could have been through all those years. And I think he's been doing absolutely great recently.
Well, whenever they did the first British stuff, where it was just Cole doing it without Vince in his ear, he was great. You could tell that he really loved what he was doing. But I mean, having Vince scream at you all the time, I imagine that would have some lasting effects.
Yeah.
Because I will say this, because of that, like when we all were in college together and I was pursuing this broadcasting thing, that was one thing some of my friends back at home would ask me, like, hey, would you ever commentate for WWE one day? I went, no. Absolutely not. Maybe now that Vince is not running things, but I told him, I said, no, absolutely not. There's no way. Like, at least in my head, when I'm sitting there and I'm commentating or doing something like this, I don't need to hear the producer every time there's something going on or anytime you want me to say something specific. Let me know beforehand, and then I will hit my marks as I'm going. I don't know how Michael Cole did it. More power to him. And
speaking of voices, where Jim Ross is kind of like the voice of 90s, early 2000s, Michael Cole's most definitely the voice of I would say modern era, if you will.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, but speaking of what you were saying about Vince being the ear, Corey Graves recently did an interview where it's like it's been so refreshing having Triple H because he'll only pop in maybe once or twice to maybe make a little comment, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, because like you will distract your talent so much. If you're a producer and you're constantly on the talk back, telling them things left and right, you will distract your talent so much. It messes up their flow. It messes up what they're doing in there. Like you're suffocating them pretty much, which is basically what Vince was doing with Michael. So anyway, Jason.
So for my third pick, this guy was the soul voice from 94 to 96. You all know who it is yet?
Maybe.
When I say the soul voice, I mean the soul commentary voice for ECW, Joey Styles.
Oh. Yeah, because he did it by himself.
He did.
He did not have a collar commentator. He did the whole like.
Now, while I think at times he might have overdid the "oh my god," I still think the fact that he did it by himself and he didn't need anyone else there with him just puts him on my Rushmore list.
Also, apparently, he knocked out JBL.
Yeah, I mean that's always
a plus.
Yeah.
Like and yeah, Joey Styles. Yeah, he was the voice of ECW, and him WWE not doing more with him than what they did, honestly, is a travesty. Just in my humble opinion about that. I mean, Joey Styles is wonderful, and he was he was wonderful on the mic, and he was the first Styles really in wrestling. That's dad joke there. So my last pick. I hate you, Josh. You took my last pick. I was leading up to this one. I was gonna make it. I had a whole lead up about this kind of a controversial pick, but yeah, Michael Cole. I mean, just everything that you said. He is the voice of modern WWE, and like before Vince got as hands on as he did with the product, which I guess he always has been, but he just got worse as the years went on. Go back and listen to Michael Cole and Taz back in SmackDown's like heyday when they had the SmackDown 6, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, and all of them. Like Michael Cole is a very just strip away the wrestling aspect of it all. He's just a very, very good broadcaster. Yeah. And also I know some people. Excuse me. I know some people don't like it that Pat McAfee is doing his Pat McAfee thing, but I think Pat McAfee hooking up with Michael Cole and being a commentary team, I think it's helped Michael Cole loosen up a little more. Yeah. Like, and you see this totally different personality than him now. And
they say he's been having like some of the best times with Pat McAfee.
I believe it. Yeah. So much so that he tweeted for like the first time in like 3 years or something. There was something going on with Pat McAfee, and he actually put something on Twitter. Yeah. But yeah, Michael Cole. Some people may not see it that way, but it's my Mount Rushmore. So yeah, I get to pick who I want. Anyway, Josh, last one.
I was thinking about a couple of different people. I think I'm going to go with John Bradshaw Layfield. I know.
Are you really?
Yeah. I don't know. I went through a couple different people. I was like, you know what? He's one I remember a lot from like the Ruthless Aggression era when he went to commentary. And then when he came back, not to like, a year or two ago, whatever, did a little bit of commentary. I was like, he's actually really good. I enjoyed his commentary and like how good of a heel he can be on there.
What about Booker T with Shucky Ducky Quack Quack?
No. I mean, unless that's your pick, more power to you. But no.
I almost thought about maybe like Don West or Mike Tenay, but I don't remember them enough to put them on there. Like I remember they're like the voice of TNA during the 2000s, but other than that, I don't remember them enough to put them on there.
I'll be honest. Like Mike Tenay was like I was considering him. Like he just, but I just. Impact into the business and everything. Great commentator, especially with Don West, but yeah, I don't know. Wouldn't mind. But JBL, Like, that one just kind of.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming.
No.
Neither did he.
No. He didn't see that coming from Joey Styles either. Anyway.
I
Jason?
thought about maybe Jerry Lawler too. I was like, puppies, but whatever.
Yeah, Jerry Lawler is good, but he really came out of, and a lot of it didn't age as well as it should, as well as it did, aged like milk. But when he was commentating with Jim Ross, I mean, those two are my two favorite like duos, like commentary teams.
Yeah.
Outside of all the puppy stuff that Jerry Lawler used to do. So, yeah. JBL though.
Yeah. That'd be different.
So
there you go.
I mean, it's different. Yeah. I mean, different isn't always good, but it's your list. It's your Rushmore.
Could have won recency bias, said Pat McAfee.
I mean,
I do really enjoy him. So.
I think it would have been a better pick than JBL, but you know what? It's all up to you. I was going to say Todd Phillips.
Not the baddie.
No, I'm not saying Todd Phillips. No, actually, I had thought of a few, and I tried to think about the ones that I remember, like Dusty Rhodes. As much as I love Dusty, it wasn't great on commentary.
Bicycle.
He got a bicycle. Where'd he get that bicycle from? And I thought about someone whom has kind of been redacted recently, but throughout the 80s and 90s, I mean, he was very heavy with the WWE product.
Yes.
He was the voice kind of that generation. And that would be one VK McMahon. I'm not picking him.
I will say real quick, even with everything that's going on, I still would say that would have been a solid pick, because Vince is he's a good commentator.
He was.
He's a very very good broadcaster and a good interviewer.
But I mean, part of that also could have been the fact that his job depended on it. I mean, it was his company.
Feast or famine, pretty much.
So I thought about him. I thought about Eric Bischoff, because I mean, he kind of had just the WCW effect of Vince. But as much as I would love to go with Jesse Ventura, and I would love to, I'm going to have to go with Paul Heyman. Because when Paul Heyman came on and did commentary, it was kind of like a modernized version of Bobby Heenan. But it was grittier, and it was rougher. And Paul Heyman just said what he wanted to say, and he was unabashed and unapologetic, and it made JR mad.
Did he legitimately make JR mad?
I believe so, because JR then, like whenever those two were working together, JR then had to up his game to stay up with Paul Heyman, as opposed to just doing what he did with Jerry Lawler.
That makes sense. Instead of him like being the navigator for the broadcast and everything, and I don't want to say carry Jerry Lawler, but in a way he did. But yeah, no, that makes sense with Paul Heyman coming in, because I mean, Paul Heyman, he's
with JR and Jerry Lawler. I mean, it was definitely two complete dichotomies. I mean, you had JR, who did play-by-play for the actual event as if it were on radio. So he's telling you everything that's going on, and then you have the King, who just comes in with his quips and puns and dad jokes and puppies. And, I mean, that's it. You had those two that meshed together, and then you have Paul Heyman come in, who had ran his own company. And so he was just saying whatever he wanted to, because Vince told him, make me money. So that's what he did. So my fourth one is Paul Heyman.
Fair. All of these solid picks. Some of them were very I could see coming.
You know what? No, JBL is not a solid pick.
No.
Not a solid pick. I mean, you could have gone with CM Punk or Matt Stryker.
I thought about it.
Or the anonymous Raw general manager. That was
That was terrible.
It was better than JBL.
To each his own.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Yeah.
But just like what I said at the top of this segment.
You know who's terrible? Kevin Nash.
Josh is still going on his, he's still got heat with Kevin. It's been a few weeks, and he's still got heat with Kevin.
Yeah.
It's okay, though. But yeah, just like what I said at the top of this segment, if you let us know who your Mount Rushmore of commentators are, email us, thegrillout95.
Did you all hear that? I think Kevin Nash's quad just tore.
Yep, it did. It did. But yeah, email us, thegrillout95@gmail.com. You can also like the Facebook page and send us a message there to let us know that what your commentator Mount Rushmore is. But
run down the list what we had.
Yeah. What? I did not write any of that down.
Well, do you know your 4?
I have it wrote down.
Well, just say your 4, and then Josh will say his, and then I'll say 3 of mine and try to struggle with remembering the 4th one like I did last time with Necro Butcher.
That one, yeah. Anyway, okay, I'll give my 4 real quick. JR, Jim Ross, Gordon Soley, Michael Cole, and Tony Schiavone.
Had Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, my cousin twice removed, 8th cousin, whatever you want to call him, Michael Cole, and JBL.
There's a lot of Coles in wrestling for some reason.
Bye-bye.
It's because they're like rabbits. So let's see. I had Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, Joey Styles, and Paul Heyman.
All right. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to go ahead and stop it right there. Up next, we have the main event, and on this day in wrestling history. Stay tuned.
Once again, here's Hollywood Jeff Petty.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Grill Out. I am your host, Hollywood Jeff Petty, and I hope you enjoyed that segment of Mount Rushmore. I told you it was going to be coming out of left field, and Josh saying that JBL is on his Mount Rushmore of announcers. I mean, it's his list, to each his own, but yeah, that one caught me and Jason off guard. I don't know. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. On this day in wrestling history. March 17th, 1993. 6 days after losing the WCW World Heavyweight Championship to Sting in London, England, Big Van Vader regained the title at an event in Dublin, Ireland. Pretty much, it seems like at this point, Sting was just a transitional champion. I don't know how many championships this was for him, but yeah, 6 days. He won it in England. He lost it in Ireland. I mean, sometimes that's just how things go. In that week span, Vader became a 2-time world champion. I'm sure he had more than that. But yeah, and that was also early Sting. That was like Surfer Sting, like early, like. I think he became he started wearing the surfer stuff in the late 80s, 1990, somewhere in there. So yeah, this was still very early in the Sting surfer stuff. So and yeah, he was a transitional champion. So moving on. March 17th, 2002, WrestleMania 18 took place in front of 68,237 fans at the Sky Dome in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. The main event of the show saw Triple H defeat Chris Jericho to win the WWE Undisputed Championship. However, this match was completely overshadowed by the semi-main event match between The Rock and Hollywood Hulk Hogan. This match saw the fans in Toronto completely embrace the heel Hogan, resulting in a face turn at the end of the match, which has gone down as one of the most iconic WrestleMania moments of all time. Also on the event, The Undertaker became the first man to notch 10 WrestleMania victories with a win over Ric Flair. And Rob Van Dam defeated William Regal in the opening match for the Intercontinental Championship. Of note, this was the last WrestleMania to take place under the WWF branding. The company changed their name to WWE later that year. And yeah, they did. They changed in May of that same year. They went to WWE. And yeah, this was the last WrestleMania for the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation. And the first man to notch 10 WrestleMania victories, The Undertaker. This was actually the first time Taker sort of acknowledged the streak, the coveted streak that we all know about these days. He stood outside of the ring on the apron after he beat Ric Flair and held up 10 fingers saying, hey, I have 10 wins at this event. I am 10-0. So, yeah, and then, of course, yeah, I mean, the main event was Triple H and Chris Jericho, but we all know what the actual main event was. It was The Rock taking on Hollywood Hulk Hogan. So, moving on. March 17th, 2021. In the main event of the St. Patrick's Day Slam edition of AEW Dynamite, Thunder Rosa defeated Britt Baker in a brutal lights-out match. This was a brutal match. It absolutely was a brutal match for the women. So much so that even Bryan Danielson was speaking about this here recently. He was on a panel at South by Southwest, and he said that the reception backstage to WWE was a little, I guess you could say, expected. Not his word, not his words, those are my words. But this is the quote that he gave everybody. Quote, there were a bunch of people backstage saying women's wrestling should not be like that. This is horrible. We would never do that. Except if you're talking about equal rights, letting women go out there and do things that men do, that kind of match took Britt and women's wrestling in AEW to the next level. You'd watch it and be like, these women are stars. And you absolutely would. Britt Baker is, she is sort of maybe the face of the division, but she kind of has been. And yeah, that was a brutal match. I mean, I've watched a lot of wrestling in my day, and that's probably top 15, top 20 most brutal things I've watched. It was a great match, awesome match, and I was so and I know there's been sort of a theme to this episode a little bit, but it was kind of a breath of fresh air that the women got a chance to go out there and do what the men do and really just tear the house down. And that was also during when they were doing all of their tapings at Daly's Plaza. So I think or Daly's Place, whatever it is. They did it in Jacksonville. So that is everything for On This Day in Wrestling History. Just to close everything out with the main event, it's your regularly scheduled programming this week. Monday will be Raw, Tuesday will be NXT and I think NWA. Wednesday will be Dynamite, Thursday will be Ring of Honor and TNA. Friday will be Rampage and SmackDown, and then of course Saturday will be Collision. A note real quick for next week, we will not have an episode of the Grill Out. I'm taking a weekend off. It's my birthday, okay? I'm taking off to going on vacation a little bit. We will be back the weekend after that. So just to give you a heads up for local wrestling, ASW has their 18th anniversary show. Saturday, March 30th, 2024. It will be at the Madison Civic Center, 261 Washington Avenue in Madison, West Virginia. The meet and greet will be at 5 o'clock, bell time at 7. Reserved seating at $20, general admission at $15. You can get advance tickets available at Mike's Tire in Madison. They'll have Cowboy Bob Orton there, along with Eric Redbeard, George South. They got, looks like they're going to have Angelina Love. Damian Sandow's going to be there. And yeah, George South will be there. He is entering into the ASW Hall of Fame. And we also have an ASW Hall of Famer here at the radio station. His name is Dave Allen. He doesn't like to talk about it, or at least I don't think he does. But I like to remind people that he is technically a Hall of Famer. He is. So y'all go say hi to him. If you like the show, if you got anything you want to say, you can email us, thegrillout95@gmail.com. Tell us what you're saying. Tell us who your Mount Rushmore of announcers are for professional wrestling, and also go like the Facebook page. All of that will be in the description below. And until next time, my fellow wrestling fans, have a good one.
Goodbye, and good night, back.